We spoke earlier about, and last week, about the project and the importance of evaluating our progress through the project as we essentially go through the project itself. We've spoken about the fact that 90% or whatever the number is of projects, certainly a large percentage of projects do not get delivered on time, and they do not get delivered onto budget. So there are various tools available which we'll look at, which can help us do that. But essentially the implementation of the project is fundamental. And the implementation process really underpins the success of the project. So I'm not talking there about the project itself. I'm talking about everything we might need to do to implement the project in the first place. So I've been involved, as I spoke last week, I've been involved in some huge recruitment projects that exist over multiple countries, multiple roles, many multiple positions. And those projects were always underpinned by technology. They were underpinned by our team. They were underpinned by our people. They were underpinned by the processes that we adopt to make that project successful. And that is really the project implementation. We'd have 6 weeks or so, maybe even more, in some cases, even 3 months to implement a project. So, you know, a major project in industry has a go live date. It has a preparation and implementation process, and then it has a go live date. In some respects, in some instances, the go live dates can be kind of 6 months even after the project's actually started going, after we started the implementation of the project. The go live date is when we press the button to go live. But the key is we need to carry out activities proposed in the application to deliver the project itself. And we need to use the tools available to deliver the project, well, not only to achieve the project objectives and deliver the results, but all of the outputs as well. So we'll look at various tools to do this as we go through. But the success of a project depends on many internal and external factors. You know, we've spoken about a lot of internal factors around team, around process, around the organization. But think of the external factors, political, social, economic factors that could actually affect the outcome of a project. And that is why the project needs to be dynamic in its approach, and we need to be willing to change our approach should it come to it. Okay. The key overall management has to be taken over by the lead partner. So generally, in a lot of these big projects, there will be a lead partner. And there are often a number of partners involved in the project, but the lead partner is the person who, the company or the partner who really takes responsibility where there are a number of partners involved, a number of companies involved, to ensure the delivery is on time. And overall management has to be really undertaken by that person. As I mentioned, the project management has to have an efficient management system. We'll talk about that. And always has to be flexible to current needs and change situations, as the project is rarely implemented exactly according to the initial plan. Nevertheless, the project partnership should aim to deliver quality results and outputs. So what this is basically saying is, you know, we've got to do whatever we can to keep the project online, and we need to be flexible, we need to be adaptable, as we spoke about last week. Quality, which is obviously measured on every project, quality really means meeting expectations described in the application and those agreed within the partnership. Look at the headliner on this slide. 90% of all projects finish late. Remember that if you can. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my camera slightly. Just try to remember that. 90% of all projects finish late. And if you Google it, you're going to come up with all sorts of different numbers by different writers. So make sure if you talk about it, make sure you talk use a reference or talk approximately, but essentially 90% of all projects finish late. We're going to refer a little bit as we go through here to a government body in the European Union called Interreg. I don't need to get really involved, or we don't need to really get involved in Interreg and the ins and outs, but essentially Interreg is one of the key instruments of the European Union supporting cooperation across borders through project funding. So its aim is to jointly tackle common challenges and shared solutions in fields such as health, environment, research, education, transport, sustainable energy, and more. So Interreg is really what we're talking about when we were talking about program manager. They fund through the EU and support multiple projects in different areas. And they will have, not only will they allocate resources and financing for projects or co-financing projects, they will actually monitor its implementation as well. So while project partners are implementing the work plan, the project plan, the program co-financing the project is monitoring its implementation. This just goes back to what we were talking about earlier on about program and project implementation. Monitoring project progress is a main program management tool. As an administrative procedure, the main task of monitoring is to assure that project inputs, budget activities, and outputs are in line with the original plan. Again, back to the budget, the plan, the activities that lay down for the implementation and the execution of the plan, and monitoring all of that. And of course, that the expenditure incurred complies with the rules of eligibility. The main feature of project monitoring is that it is based on the project application. So basically, organizations will go to Interreg for an application to undergo a certain project. There'll be various project partners involved, and Interreg's role is to really monitor the progress of these projects and monitor the finances that are going into it. Programs put considerable emphasis on project monitoring, and it is one of the core tasks of those responsible for program management. We spoke about that. Monitoring the project's implementation provides vital information over the overall performance of the program. In particular, how quantitatively and qualitatively, so I'm sure we all understand the difference between quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative is more definable. Qualitative is more, obviously, more about the wider quality issues of the program. Objectives and key targets have been met. So a huge part of this, as a huge part of project implementation, a huge part of project management, program management comes in the monitoring of the success of that project or program itself. I'll just leave you just to look at that slide a little bit, just for a minute or so, just have a read through. The important thing as we go through these slides is really that the concept of the slide fits in. There's a lot of detail in some of these slides. They are accessible to you, but just think through what we've just talked about. Project, programs, implementation, monitoring. Those are probably the three or four biggest themes that we've spoken about so far today. Leadership, project, program, implementation, monitoring. And your assignments, as you go through your assignments, which we'll talk about at the end of today's session, these are the types of words that you want to be using, referring to, whatever it might be. Okay, just have a quick look at that slide, and then I'm going to move on. I'll just give you a minute. That point down the middle, for these reasons, it is important that monitoring is an ongoing process and not left as a task for the end of the project. Why? Because at the end of the project has either gone to plan or not. There's no point in reviewing it at the stage where it has not gone to plan. We want to be reviewing the project as we go through the project, as we implement the project, whatever the project might be, to make sure it stays on track. And to make sure we're doing exactly what we said we were going to do in the first place. So that's one of the reasons why project managers, I mean, strong project managers can not only, I think as you're aware, I worked in recruitment for a long time, and I hired a lot of I hired a lot of project managers. And I think one of the things that you'll find is a strong project manager can really move across industries. A strong project manager, we looked at the qualifications that we can get as project managers last week. They're not industry specific necessarily. Obviously, a project manager in an IT world generally stays within the IT world, but that doesn't have to be the case at all. A strong project manager or a strong program manager can move across industries because it's the art of project management, doing what we're saying we're going to do, doing it on time and within budget with the right level of quality, that really makes a difference in these cases.